Are realtors even needed anymore? Let's talk about that in some depth today, because in 2023, we had a big lawsuit in which the National Association of Realtors and a bunch of major brokerages were found liable. And that's going to change the course of how things look in 2024, especially when we talk about realtor compensation. And I just want to go over some stats now that this is January 1st of 2024. I pulled some stats today of how many agents in my local area, which is in the heart of Kentucky, is the Association of Realtors, and see how they did. And I'm gonna just give you a quick stat right here. About half of them did just as well as working at McDonald's. So let's get into it. Let's talk about realtors, talking about the lawsuit. What the plaintiffs allege is that the National Association of Realtors and these major brokerages were encouraging sellers to pay more for the agent that represented the buyer, and they felt compelled to pay higher commissions to the agent that represents the buyer, even though they weren't the agent that represented the seller, and the sellers felt that that was not fair. This went to court, and at the end of 2023, the trial found that the National Association of Realtors and these several brokerages were found liable for this antitrust violation in this lawsuit. So that is going to change how compensation is paid for the agent that represents the buyer. This is going to change the industry somehow. We don't know how, because the trial just said they were liable, but did not give a recommendation of what are we going to do to change this. So there's going to be some changes coming out. Now, this is going to scare a bunch of realtors, because for as long as they've probably been practicing as a real estate agent, the tradition in America is that the agent or the seller pays the buyer's agent. Now, this is kind of actually written in some laws. For example, if you use a VA home loan, the buyer who uses the VA home loan cannot pay their agent. They have to get compensated through some other means. We are also going to see some other pricing models, maybe some fixed pricing, so that instead of paying a percentage, you're going to pay $5,000 to sell my home. And we're also probably going to see maybe some agents are going to work by the hour and charge an hourly rate. Who knows? But like I said, the trial only found the National Association of Realtors liable, but did not give a solution on how to fix the problem. So we're going to see how that turns out in the coming months. But let's pull some stats. Like I said, I'm with the Heart of Kentucky Association of Realtors. My office is in Radcliffe, Kentucky. We work in mostly the Hardin County, but the agents are spread out in the surrounding areas, so Meade County, all the way up to Louisville, and we can go down to Litchfield. But our license is good all over the state. So I just pulled the stats from earlier today from the Heart of Kentucky Association of Realtors, and I just looked at how many people actually had some sort of activity. There might actually be more people who are realtors that haven't done activity. I just pulled the stats of who did activity. And there might be some statistical anomalies in there, because it does have like for sale by owners and things like that. But there are 440 data points on there of an entity that has done some sort of transaction. So we're working with 440 is our sample size here in this board of realtors. And I wanted to look at something, and I was kind of looking at how many people did 1 or 2 transactions, just not a lot. And I got to, it was about 125 agents were doing this 1 to 2 transactions this year, this calendar year. And the gross sales was about $645,000 at that person who had the highest there, about the 125th agent of those 125. So if I was just doing some rough calculations, looking at some general what their compensation would have been, what their fees would have been that they had to pay, because just because we collect commissions doesn't mean we get to keep it all. There's a lot of fees associated with being a realtor. That person at the top end of that 125 agents probably got somewhere in the ballpark of $10,000. So that means of the 440 agents in our local area that sold anything, about 125 of them made $10,000 or less. All right, so let's just keep that in mind. Now, moving on to, let's think about McDonald's for a moment. In our local area, McDonald's pays about $15 an hour. And on top of that, I do believe McDonald's has a few little perks, some healthcare, college, and what have you. I'm not sure, I've never worked there. But you get a little bit more than just your hourly rate for working at McDonald's of $15 an hour. But $15 an hour on a full-time job, we're talking about $30,000 a year gross. Now, also taxation for a W-2 employee is a little bit better than taxation for a 1099, and realtors are typically 1099 workers, not W-2. 1099 employees pay a lot more in taxes than W-2s. So keep this in mind, that just because a realtor makes $30,000 and an employee at McDonald's makes $30,000, the realtor is actually going to make less money because they're going to pay more in taxes. But I just went and I guessed at an approximation of the sales volume and just a generalized commission rate. It took about 237 agents until we got one that had a gross commission. Just looking at the stats of, what their sales are and just some generalized commission rates, that their gross commission before their fees and anything would have been about, these 237 agents. So that means that 46% of the agents in my board of realtors made a gross of $30,000 or less. So that means almost half of the agents in our local area could have done probably better if they just worked at McDonald's. Then I went over to the National Association of Realtors Realtor Property Resource website, rpr.com, and I looked up what is the median income for households in Hardin County. Now, according to them, it was just shy of $60,000, so I looked at $60,000. And again, I just took some averaged of what the commissions might be and looked at the sales of agents. And I found that it was the top 164 agents in our local board made a gross of $60,000 or more. That means that 63%, almost 2/3 of the local realtors around here are having a gross income of the median income for Hardin County. Again, this is pre-tax, and taxation for realtors, because they're 1099 workers, is going to be much higher than W-2s. So that means that almost 2/3 of the real estate agents in this area are making less than the average people around here. Now, let's move on to some other topics. What is 2024 going to look like for real estate agents? Well, this lawsuit is going to shake some people up and scare them away because they're not sure what the future is going to hold, and change always scares some people. But I predict we are going to lose a lot of agents. And the reason for this is in 2020 and 2021, we saw a lot of people flood in to become realtors. Why? Because the market was so easy. Everybody was buying homes during COVID. It was easy to sell them. You just take out your cell phone, throw a few pictures of blurry streaked photos on the MLS, and someone was going to buy it. It wasn't that hard. There were so many buyers, and every home was going to sell, and it was going to sell for more. Almost like you didn't need the realtor back then. But now, at the end of 2022, interest rates went up. Sellers stopped selling. Buyers are still there, but there's nothing for them to buy because the sellers stopped selling. And now we have to work harder. We have to prospect. We have to actually market. And those that came in at this easy time, they don't have that mindset. They don't understand the amount of work that it takes to actually become a successful real estate agent, the amount of work it takes to represent your client very well. And I don't think they're going to stick around. And I believe that they will move on because, like I said, almost half of the realtors made less than working for McDonald's. So why should they work here? Why should they spend all that money trying to sell a home when they could just go, make some French fries or what have you? So I believe a lot of them are going to fade away. Consumers are going to be left with those who actually understand real estate, those who actually understand marketing, that are actually going to take high quality photos, those who are going to use drones, those who are going to use virtual tours, those who are actually going to pay for marketing spots. And that's where the ones who remain are going to stand out. Now, 2024 and 2025 is going to be great because there's so much opportunity in our local community. We have those new factories going in that are going to bring a lot of economic growth, which is going to bring in a lot of development and a lot of opportunities for anybody who wants to become a homeowner to buy a home. So if that's something you're interested in, this is a great time to be coming through. And the only recommendation I have is if you plan on doing any move in real estate in 2024, just be ready for it so that when the time comes that you are able to seize that opportunity. And the first step you can do to prepare yourself is to get with a local lender and get yourself pre-qualified so that you are ready to jump on that opportunity, because you don't want to miss it when it comes, because right now the inventory is low. So get yourself prepared, get everything lined up. And it's going to be great for consumers, like I said, because the cream of the crop is what's going to be left. I'm excited for all the opportunities we're going to have in 2024, and I hope for the opportunity to work with you and help you achieve your goals.